I always thought I'd end up with Era. From the moment we learned to ride bikes on the same dusty street to the nights we whispered secrets under our neighborhood's broken lamppost, she was the one. My first friend. My first love. The girl who smiled when I got jealous like it was proof of how much I cared. She used to tease me whenever someone else gave her attention. She'd laugh when I clenched my fists. Say things like, "Don't worry, you're still my favorite." And like a fool, I believed her. I let her play with my feelings for years. Every time I tried to confess, she'd change the subject or smirk and say, "You'd be so boring if you weren't jealous." I kept waiting for the right moment for her to see I was the one who'd always been there. But she never did. Then one day, I decided to stop waiting. I stopped reacting, stopped chasing, stopped letting her string me along while she flirted with other guys just to see my blood boil. And that's when it happened. The moment I let go, she started to panic. But it was too late. Because I'd already met someone else, someone who didn't play games with my heart. Someone who saw me not as entertainment but as a man worthy of love. And the look on Era's face the day I introduced my fiancé? I'll never forget it. Because that was the day she realized the boy who'd always belonged to her heart no longer did. My name is Rayyan, and for most of my life, Ara was the center of it. We grew up in the same neighborhood, just 3 houses apart. Our moms were best friends, so naturally, we became best friends too. From scraped knees to school projects, she was there. Always. She was bold, charming, and unpredictable everything I wasn't. Where I was quiet and observant, Era was loud and wild. The kind of girl who could walk into any room and become the reason people smiled. And me? I was the guy standing behind her, holding her bag while she lit up the world. I didn't mind. Not back then. Because she always came back to me. When she was tired of everyone else's attention, she'd find me. On the school rooftop during breaks. On my porch late at night. She'd lean on my shoulder, say things like, "You're the only one who gets me, Rayyan." And just like that, I'd forgive her again. I never told her I loved her, not directly. But I showed it in the way I walked her home after every tuition class, in how I memorized her coffee order without her ever asking, in how I'd stay up late helping her study even when I had my own finals the next day. And yet, she'd flirt with other guys in front of me. Not because she liked them, but because she liked how it made me react. She used to glance at me with those mischievous eyes and say, "Jealousy suits you." I'd laugh it off, but inside, it hurt. Every single time. Still, I never left. I never told her to stop, because a part of me thought maybe this was her way of keeping me close. Maybe if I was patient long enough, she'd stop playing games and finally choose me. That hope kept me going. Even when she dated other people casually. Even when she accidentally forgot to invite me to parties but posted stories with guys I didn't even know. She always came back after a few days. With that same excuse, "You know none of them matter, right?" And, like a fool, I believed her. Because Era wasn't just my childhood, she was a piece of my identity. My memories were tied to her laugh, my future imagined with her in it. But everything changed the day I met Maheen. Maheen was nothing like Era. She didn't play mind games. She didn't make me feel small just to feel wanted. She didn't dangle her love like bait to see if I'd chase. She was soft-spoken, mature, and kind. The kind of girl who listened when I spoke. Who asked how my day was and actually waited for the answer. It scared me at first, being really seen without having to perform for it. I didn't fall for Maheen overnight. But slowly, her presence started to feel like peace, like coming home without needing to fight for space at the table. And for the first time in my life, I started imagining a future where Ara wasn't the leading role. The realization was terrifying but also freeing. Because once I tasted what real, calm, unconditional affection felt like, I couldn't go back. And that's when Era started to notice. The glances. The panic. The way her jokes stopped landing the same way. The way I didn't flinch when she accidentally brushed her hand against mine or smiled a little too long at the guy at the cafe. I wasn't reacting anymore. Because I had finally stopped waiting. But she hadn't stopped playing. Not yet. It happened on a Thursday evening. I still remember the smell of rain in the air, the low rumble of clouds overhead, and the warmth of Maheen's fingers laced through mine as we walked out of our favorite bookstore. We had just started dating officially. Nothing serious yet, we were taking it slow. But something about her made even the silence between us feel meaningful. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ara. "Can we talk? Just us? One last time." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Maheen peeked over, then smiled and let go of my hand. "It's okay," she said gently. "If she needs closure, maybe you do too." Guy, Maheen always knew the right thing to say. That night, I met Ara at the old community garden behind our high school, the place we used to sneak off to when the world felt too loud. She was already there, sitting on the swing, head down, fidgeting with the rusted chain links. She looked up as I approached. "You look different," she said quietly. "Happy." I didn't know what to say to that. So I stayed silent. Then she dropped it casual, like it wasn't a bomb she was about to detonate. "I broke up with Arav." Arav. The guy she swore was just someone to kill boredom with. The same guy she'd been posting romantic reels with for weeks. I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, why are you telling me that?" She smiled. But it wasn't the smile I grew up with, it was one laced with something I couldn't name. Bitterness? Regret? Possession? Because I realized something. I don't want you moving on without me. The words hit like ice against my skin. I laughed, part disbelief, part defense. "You had years, Era. I was right in front of you." Her voice sharpened. "You always were. And you still are. You're mine, Rayyan. You've always been mine." I took a step back. "No, I was yours. You never chose me, you just made sure I never belonged to anyone else." Her eyes flickered, and for a split second, I saw something raw. Panic, maybe. Don't throw us away for someone you barely know. That was the moment it shifted. The line she crossed without hesitation. Because that night, I realized Era wasn't afraid of losing me because she loved me. She was afraid of losing her power over me. And just when I thought that was the extent of it, just as I turned to leave, she whispered one more thing. "You think she really loves you, Rayyan? You don't even know the full story." I froze. "What story?" But she just gave me that infuriating half smile. "Guess you'll find out." And suddenly I wasn't sure if I was walking away from the past or walking blindly into a new trap. Ara's words didn't leave me, not even after I got home. Not even as Maheen and I sat across from each other at dinner. "You don't even know the full story." What the hell did that mean? I stirred my food aimlessly while Maheen chatted about a funny story from work. I nodded, smiled where it felt appropriate, but my mind wasn't there. It was with Ara. In that garden, under the flickering streetlight, where her voice dropped into something dangerous. Did she know something about Maheen? Was she bluffing? I hated that she could still get under my skin. That even now, after everything, a single sentence from her had the power to tear open old wounds and plant new doubts. Later that night, as Maheen washed up in the bathroom, I scrolled through her Instagram. Not because I didn't trust Era, but because I didn't trust Era's intentions. Nothing suspicious. Just soft photos. Sunsets. Books. Coffee. A sleepy selfie with the caption, "Mondays hit different." She was so normal. So unlike Era. Then why was there a knot forming in my chest? I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to be that get the one who brought baggage from the past into something pure. But the words were bubbling at the edge of my tongue. When she came out, hair wrapped in a towel, I looked up. "Hey," I said carefully, "can I ask you something?" Maheen paused, sensing the shift in tone. Of course. I hesitated. "Is there anything I should know? Anything about your past? Something that might come up later?" Her eyebrows pinched. "That's vague." I exhaled slowly. "Era said something tonight. She hinted that there's something I don't know. Something about you." She was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled sadly. "So this is how she's gonna play." My heart dropped. "So there is something?" "She's twisting things," Maheen said, sitting beside me. Rayyan, I knew Ara before I met you. Not well, just briefly. We had mutual friends during university. She didn't like me then either. Said I was too plain to be interesting. That sounded like her. Maheen continued. One night, at a party, she made a scene. Accused me of flirting with her boyfriend. I wasn't. He was the one who came on to me. She humiliated me in front of everyone. I walked out and never boff. Looked back. I stared at her, trying to piece it all together. And now? She's not trying to protect you. She's trying to poison you against me. She knows what she lost, and she hates that I found you. The conviction in her voice made me want to believe her. And I almost did. Until I opened my phone later that night and saw a new message from an unknown number. Ask Maheen why she dropped out in her final year. Ask her what happened at the internship. I stared at it for minutes. I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to believe this version of my life had cracks in it. But my fingers moved on their own. At breakfast, I asked a question like I didn't already know it would hurt. Maheen, why didn't you finish your degree? She froze mid-sip. Her cup clinked as it touched the table. I wasn't expecting that question. Just answer me. Her voice was quiet. It's not what you think. I don't know what to think. She looked up at me, and for the first time since we met, I saw fear in her eyes. And that terrified me more than anything Era had said. Because fear only shows up when there's something to lose, or something to hide. Maheen didn't answer me that morning. She stood up, walked out to the balcony, and stayed there for what felt like hours. I didn't follow. Couldn't. I sat there staring at her untouched tea, the silence screaming louder than any argument we could have had. She finally spoke when the sun had started to rise, casting a pale orange light on the floor tiles. Rayyan, she said, not turning around, do you want the truth, even if it changes how you see me? My throat went dry. Yes. She turned, her eyes tired. I dropped out of my final year because I had a breakdown. I was top of my class, set to graduate with honors. Then during my final internship, my supervisor, she stopped. Her lips trembled. He what? I asked, voice softer now. He harassed me. When I reported him, he turned the tables, said I was the one being inappropriate, said I was using him for good grades, and she believed him. She spread it around, made sure everyone knew her version of the story. I felt the blood drain from my face. No one stood by me, Maheen continued. My professors doubted me. My batchmates avoided me. I couldn't take it anymore. I left. That internship ruined my degree, my name, everything. My hands curled into fists. And Era knew this? All of it? She nodded slowly. She was the one who laughed the loudest. My heart pounded with fury. But beneath it, a different kind of storm was brewing. Because the next morning, I received another message. From a different number. Want to know what Maheen did after the internship? Here's a place to start. Attached was an address. It was a clinic. I didn't tell Maheen. I didn't want to blindside her again without knowing the truth. But I had to go. I had to see for myself. The clinic was small, tucked in a quiet lane. The receptionist looked up as I entered. Hi, I'm looking for someone. I was told she used to come here. Maheen F. Tab. The woman frowned, then checked the records. Yes, she was part of a support group here. My breath caught. Support group for what? She looked at me carefully, then spoke slowly. Victims of workplace assault and post-abortion trauma. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? The woman hesitated. She was here 2 years ago. She had a medical termination. She came here for counseling after. The air around me shattered like glass. Era's words, the messages they suddenly took on new weight. I walked out in a daze. Maheen had an abortion? My head spun. Was it from him? From that supervisor? Or someone else? I didn't know. I couldn't think. All I could hear was Era's smug voice in my head. You don't know the full story. And the worst part? She was right. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly, the city blurring past like it was running away from me. My mind was a storm, every memory of Maheen colliding with this new truth like a violet wave. A clinic. A termination. A past she never told me about. And now, every time she smiled, every time she touched my hand, I couldn't help but wonder, what else don't I know? The next morning, I walked into our apartment. She was sitting at the dining table, eyes red, fingers trembling around her coffee mug. She looked up. She already knew. "You went," she said softly. I nodded. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just whispered, "I was going to tell you, but I was scared. I didn't want you to see me as damaged." I sat across from her, silent. She continued, voice shaking. "It happened after I dropped out. I was alone, angry, lost. One night, I made a stupid mistake. A guy I barely knew. I didn't even realize I was pregnant until weeks later." My chest tightened. "Why didn't you keep it?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because I didn't love him. Because I couldn't raise a child from pain. And because I didn't want to bring someone into this world when I could barely hold myself together." I stared at her, my fists clenched. "And you didn't think I deserved to know this? Before we got serious? Before I let myself fall, I was going to tell you," she said, louder now. I tried. But then you'd smile at me like I was enough, like I was someone whole again, and I couldn't break that illusion. I stood up, pacing. "This isn't about illusions, Maheen. It's about trust." She stood too, voice trembling. "And what about Ara? You didn't tell me you met her, that you still reply to her messages, that you went behind my back to chase her trail of poison like a dog chasing its abuser." I froze. "That's different," I said. "No, it's not." She stepped closer. "You trusted her lies over my silence, and that hurts more than anything I've been through." Silence. The kind that stretches too long, becomes unbearable. "I loved you," I whispered. "But right now, I don't even know who I loved." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She just looked at me with all the pain she had buried. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said. "But don't let her win. Don't let her destroy something we built from the ruins." But I was already walking toward the door. Because in that moment, I couldn't tell what hurt more, the truth she hid, or the fact that Era was right. I left the apartment without looking back. But every step away from her felt like ripping a thread I didn't know was stitched through my ribs. I didn't go to Ara. That would have been too easy, too predictable. She had already played her part in tearing everything down, and I wasn't about to hand her the satisfaction of watching me crawl. Instead, I checked into a hotel. I sat by the window most nights, phone in hand, wondering if Maheen would call. She didn't. And neither did I. Maybe we were both too proud. Or too broken. Or maybe, deep down, we knew we had crossed an invisible line, one where trust couldn't survive, no matter how much love tried to resuscitate it. A week passed. Then 2. One night, I saw her name flash on my phone. I stared at it for too long. When I finally picked up, her voice was quiet. "Rayyan," she said, "I won't ask you to come back. I need you to know something." I swallowed. "Go on." She took a shaky breath. "I went back to the clinic. Not for therapy, for closure. I needed to face that chapter, not run from it, for me and for you." My throat tightened. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," she continued. "But I'm not sorry for surviving. And I'm not ashamed of what I had to do. I hope one day you'll see the woman I am, not just the one you thought I was." I didn't respond right away. Because how do you reply to something so raw? "I don't hate you," I finally said. "I'm just grieving. Not just the lies, but the version of us that didn't make it." There was silence on the other end. Then she said, "You were the first man who ever made me feel safe. I hope someday someone makes you feel the same." And just like that, she hung up. No drama. No begging. Just 2 people breaking quietly, with dignity. Months passed. I poured myself into work. Into silence. into rebuilding the version of myself I had buried somewhere between loving Era and losing Maheen. I deleted the messages Era had sent, blocked the numbers. She tried to reach out again once. She texted me, "I told you she wasn't what you thought." I didn't respond, because I finally understood something Era never would. Real love doesn't come from knowing every inch of someone's past. It comes from standing beside them as they try to heal from it, and I had failed Maheen in that. One night, while scrolling through my emails, I saw an update from the university alumni newsletter. It mentioned a new lecturer joining their psychology department, Maheen Aftab. There was even a photo. She looked different, stronger, like someone who had walked through fire and made it her light. I smiled. It hurt, but I smiled. Because some people don't stay in our lives to love us forever. They come to teach us how to love better. The last message I ever sent her was short. "I'm proud of you, and I'll always be rooting for you from a distance." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Some endings don't require closure from the other person. Sometimes, just knowing you were real to each other even for a moment is enough.